Hey YouTubers, I hope you're enjoying the content. Before we get to today's video, I want everyone to go hit that bell over by the subscriber button so you're notified every single time I upload. Enjoy the video. Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Saw discussion video. I'm not talking about Saw Legacy here, but maybe this might be, I guess, explored in Saw Legacy, so we'll just have to wait and see. But with that being said, I feel like with Saw 3D, Saw the Final Chapter, Saw 7, and even the original Saw if you want to take it like that, but mostly the last film, I feel like a lot of people get a lot of things wrong when it comes to Dr. Gordon's involvement with the overarching scope of the series. And by that I mean a lot of people basically interpret his character or his motivations or anything like that as someone who is a direct apprentice to someone like Jigsaw, and I don't necessarily think of it that way. I never really have. And I understand if you watch the film and you don't necessarily think about it too heavily, that can basically seem like the case. It seems like someone is helping him. You know, he's doing the eye surgery in Saw 2 and in Saw 4. He's also showing John Denlon for the Saw 3 trap. He was heavily involved with a lot of this stuff. How is he not an apprentice? And I know that this is not necessarily fair, but we have to basically go into what the original ending was. So if you guys remember, Hoffman is basically blowing up his hideout after he basically stabbed and slashed his way through the entire city's police department. And he's gang rushed by 3 people in masks, and a lot of people have interpreted that, and it supposedly is true considering what we heard a long time ago, back when this was a little bit more relevant, that those 2 people helping Dr. Gordon were Brad and Ryan from the original trap at the very beginning of the movie, at the public scene where they were basically having to push the Saws back and forth or in the middle. And one of the things that was supposed to kind of lead to, at least in the original script of the film, was Hoffman would be left in the bathroom, and then you would have this kind of quick shots of everyone in the Bobby Dagen survivor group basically saying, he helped me, he helped me, he helped me, basically to indicate that these people aren't apprentices, but they've learned their lessons through all of these situations, and they are actually now disciples of John or Jigsaw or whatever you want to call it. And that is what Dr. Gordon was supposed to be. And I know it's weird to sit there and think, well, what's the difference between a disciple and an apprentice? Well, when you kind of interpret it the way that John does, a disciple is more of someone who is faithful to the concept, to the teachings and all this other stuff, and will help, but they won't continue the legacy. If we go all the way back to Saw 2 with Amanda basically telling Eric Matthews that she is the one who is going to take over after John dies. She is the apprentice. She is the only apprentice. And you might sit there and go, well, what was Hoffman? Well, Hoffman was more of like, I guess, a helping hand. Something they told us in Saw 4, you know, we're here to find the person helping Jigsaw and Amanda Young. And even in Saw 6, where he sits there and goes, John is dead, I'm in charge of the games now. But there was no indication of whether or not he had any idea or even knew what to do when it came to, I guess, planning traps, planning for people. I mean, even Bobby Dagen was someone that John had targeted at some point. In Saw 6's flashback, where Hoffman and Amanda and John are talking, and he's sitting there going, how many next times is there going to be? He's like, as many as there needs to be. And one of the things we never really saw Hoffman do, something that Amanda probably would have done as an apprentice, but we never really got there, is we never saw Hoffman basically create a game, choose anybody, or throw anyone under the bus, other than Seth Baxter, who, as we all know, he was the guy who killed Hoffman's sister, and he put him in the trap, and that's how John found him and everything like that. So there's very little indication that anyone was actually chosen or put in a trap specifically to do that, when Amanda seemingly had that ability or that goal with Troy and Detective Carey and all this other stuff in Saw 3, especially Troy. That's one thing that kind of left us in. It was like she interpreted that game, she picked that game, she kidnapped him and all this other stuff. She had that ability, she had that freedom when it came to John's philosophy. No one else did, at least not the way that we saw it, or we as an audience were supposed to interpret that. So why is it that Dr. Gordon was kind of introduced in Saw 3D and shown to be this kind of accomplished person who was tracking and basically making sure that Hoffman didn't kill Jill, or Hoffman didn't get too aggressive or overblown or any of that type of stuff. And how is that not necessarily an apprentice? And why is that not an apprentice? Well, I never really interpreted Dr. Gordon, although a lot of people in the fan base do, kind of as someone who was going to continue the Jigsaw legacy. He wasn't going to go and do more games. I always kind of thought of it as, you know, as Jill basically dropping off the VHS tape for him to listen to, and he plays it, and John goes, you know, you are perhaps my greatest asset. You know, you're the person who learned from all of this. In fact, he's the only person at the very end of the movies who actually survived a trap, went through a traumatic experience, and is still a better person for it. Even Amanda kind of went down the deep end. Hoffman went down the deep end, you know, amazingly. Jill never survived her trap that Hoffman put her in because she didn't really have a chance. He cheated. So why does that matter? I really feel like you are my greatest asset kind of is if Hoffman goes overboard. If Hoffman basically kills Jill, I need you to take action, and this is what I want you to do. You don't know where the bathroom is because you're not necessarily an apprentice in any of that kind of situation. So I'm going to tell you where the bathroom is. I want you to put him in the bathroom. And the one thing you'll know is if he kills Jill, he has gone completely overboard. He can no longer be trusted with even carrying out my plans. These traps for people like Bobby Dagan or William from Saw 6. He can no longer finish my legacy. Saw legacy, haha. So, and the thing is, so with that being said, he was brought in to stop Hoffman, in my opinion, because Hoffman at this point had bastardized everything that he stood for, the philosophy of Jigsaw, because as we saw in Saw 7, he was basically a slasher villain, a slasher. He was Jason or Freddy or Michael Myers or something like that. Completely scarred, you know, kind of a deformed face, walking around stabbing people to death, not necessarily being able to be killed or even stabbed to be stopped him or something. And it was the movie's way of showing us that this is no longer a Saw film. In Saw 7, Hoffman's demeanor and Hoffman's bloodthirsty attitude, where there's no real rhyme or reason to any particular game, and so many people are being tested, and it's just kind of a hamstrung set pieces together for him to get the upper hand and basically stab everyone, is basically just yelling at us, the audience, that this is not a Saw film. This is not what any of the Saw films were supposed to be. It's kind of the anti-Saw film, to the point where if we continue down this path, if we allow Hoffman to continue rampaging for this film and maybe the next film and the next film and the next film, and not replace him, and not kind of take him out, put him in that bathroom, lock him away for good, this franchise will basically spiral into the depths of not quality, like, you know, the anti-quality that becomes of Friday the 13th or Nightmare on Elm Street or the Halloween franchise, and we need to stop that. And the perfect person to stop that is someone who completely understands and believes in the whole philosophy of what the original Saw films were supposed to become anyway. And no better person or physical embodiment in terms of character than Dr. Gordon himself, the person who originally survived the trap at the very end of the first film. So that's the way I've always interpreted it. I know everyone has their opinions on whether or not I'm right or not, and you're completely allowed to understand that this guy is, in fact, an accomplice or even an apprentice to Jigsaw or John Kramer, and that he is actually heavily involved in everything going on. But, I mean, the only thing I would say is, if that were true, if he was an accomplice, if he was an apprentice, and he wasn't just a follower, someone who believed in the philosophy and helped whenever he was allowed to, an asset, then why is it that he was the one writing Hoffman these letters of, I know who you are, and Hoffman didn't immediately understand what was going on? Or why is that Hoffman said to Jill that John was dead and he's the only one who can continue with the games, when he knows that this other accomplice who's been kind of sitting in the background for a long time is still out there and might want to like headbutt him and all this other stuff in terms of this isn't the way it's supposed to be, or this is how we should basically go about the games. If this guy wasn't just someone who came in and helped every now and then, and this guy survived a trap, so maybe, you know, he could be trusted. He understands what we're doing, wink wink. And even when Dr. Gordon basically shows up and takes out Hoffman, he's even kind of out of it. He's like, I didn't even know that this was possible, that you would take matters into your own hands because you've never done it before. No one ever thought that you would, so it is genuinely shocking to someone like me. And that is why I don't necessarily think that he was an apprentice. I know a lot of people might disagree, but I really want to hear everyone's thoughts and opinions in the comment section below, because this could be an interesting debate, honestly. I think that this could be a huge interesting debate. So with that being said, guys, I want everyone to like, comment, and subscribe. Make sure to hit that bell over by the subscriber button for more notifications for whenever I upload. And if you like the Saw content, please make sure to do that, because I'm really hoping to get more of this stuff out, in the near future. It seems like we're probably going to be getting a trailer soon. If, cross our fingers, we're probably going to be getting a trailer soon. So there'll be definitely coverage on the trailer, discussions, my interpretations of the films, and maybe even reviews for them, and just general excitement leading up to Saw Legacy and beyond, and hopefully also branching out into more horror movie stuff in the near future. So guys, with that being said, I hope everyone has a good day. I hope everyone has enjoyed the video. I hope everyone has thoughts and opinions that they've been sharing in the comment section below as I've been talking. And honestly, guys, I hope everyone just has a really awesome day. Thanks. Bye.